How do the Titans stack up against the rest of the NFL, position group by position group? Today, we are putting the Titans position group into tiers: elite, good, replacement level, and concerning. Those are our 4 tiers. We're going to rank them today. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Oh, welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. Titans training camp rolls on and on and on. This is hopefully maybe the last pod that we will have to do where I'm gone, and we're currently, as you listen to this, obviously we're recording this before I go, but as you listen to this, I'm out of the country. I'm not following Titans training camp. We're gonna catch up on everything next week when I'm back. Justin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I hope Switzerland is treating you well as we do this. I hope you got permission from your in-laws. If people watch the last episode, they'll know what I'm referring to. And you better have watched the last episode or else you missed it.
What are you doing?
But now we're leaving little Easter eggs that ensures you have to watch every single episode. But I'm doing well. I'm excited to go through this here, position tiers. I'm curious to see how you're going to differ from me because maybe I was a little harsh, maybe not. I don't know. Harsh in some spots, maybe too nice in others. Excited to get to it.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to get into it. I think, we'll have a few differences, but they're going to be pretty similar for the most part. Let's get into that right away, shall we? Position tiers. We're ranking the Titans position groups, comparing them basically to what is going on in the rest of the league. So we're going to look at, how does the wide receiver group stack up compared to some of the best receiving groups in the NFL? Do the Titans have an elite group of receivers? Do they just have a good group of receivers? We're going to go position by position through that. But before we do, let me thank everyone out there for listening, but thank you even more if you're watching us on YouTube. Remember to subscribe to the Music City Audible channel, give this video a like, thumbs up, and turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. And most of all, leave a comment. Leave 3 comments. Leave 12 comments. However many comments you can type out while you're watching this video, just like stream of consciousness as you're watching the episode, whatever comes to your mind, just send it off as a comment. Pretend like it's a live chat. Just like let's keep the fun going here. Let's keep the conversation going. Justin and I will hop in and reply to you guys. If you have questions, you want to know something, you want to suggest an episode topic, just let us know in the comments below. We really appreciate it.
Or if you're a French Canadian and you want to make fun of my pronunciation of Nicolas Frere, do that too. That's fine.
Frere, not Frere. Frere.
Oh, I did it again.
Yeah, it's all good. And also thank you to Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville, Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville for sponsoring this episode. More on Sinkers Beverages to come in a little bit. So, Justin, Titans position tiers. As I said off the top, we got 4 tiers that we're slotting these position groups into. The elite tier, the ones that this position stacks up with the best of the league, the team that has the best position group in the league. The Titans are up there with them. Good is like, it sounds like we're not being very positive, but good is still good. It's like this is better than most teams' position group in the league, but it's not quite to that elite level. Replacement level is, this is about league average. You could find any random team that has guys about as good as this position group. And then concerns or concerning, the concerning tier is about, like we would take most other teams' position groups over the Titans at this particular position. So those are the 4 tiers. I think I explained it well. Let's get into those tiers. Who or what or how many position groups do you have for the Titans in the elite tier?
I have a feeling you're going to disagree.
I do disagree, so go ahead.
Yeah, I've got just one. I've got cornerback as the best position group. I think when I look at this room, and honestly, but the depth, I'm not going to get into that problem. But the reason I'm confident putting this at elite is because I think they've got one of the best corners in the NFL in L'Jarius Sneed. I think we're all in agreement on that. Even ESPN, they recently dropped their annual position rankings where they poll execs, coaches, scouts. Not that list is the end-all be-all, but he came in at number 4. And I think that's worthy of where he is in the league in terms of great cornerbacks. He's one of the 5 best in the league. So that right off the bat makes me feel really good putting this at elite. Opposite him, I think they've got a quality starter in Chido Awuzie. I don't think he's a high-end, one of the best number 2 corners in the league, but he's at least slightly above league average, I'd probably say, as a number 2 corner. So that's great. And then I love the nickel corner in Roger McCreary. So when I look at this position group being 3 deep, the 3 of them are going to be on the field together very frequently when healthy. Most of the time, the Titans will be in a nickel package where all 3 are on the field. I look at these three guys, very, very good players. It includes one elite player, another I would say two above average starters in my opinion, in Roger McCreary and Cheeto Awuzie. That to me makes me confident enough to qualify this group as elite.
Yeah, and when you talk about Roger McCreary being above average, it's like that's above average with room with a higher ceiling than that.
Right.
He's got elite ceiling as you covered in our bold predictions episode with Roger McCreary. So go check that one out if you missed it. But Roger McCreary potentially emerges this year as an elite slot corner. Then this group is a no doubter elite. But I agree with you. I think they are elite, and it's not necessarily about like having more than one super elite player. Like they have L'Jarius Sneed and then two guys that you can count on at a high level, but not the highest level. That's as good or better than every other cornerback group in the NFL. Like what teams have a better trio, not just tandem, but trio of cornerbacks than what the Titans have? There, you can maybe argue a couple. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. Maybe you do.
The Bears come to mind for me right away. I can't wait for that week 1 matchup. I've talked it up like Jalen Johnson, elite number 1 corner, Kyler Gordon in the slot, really good nickel corner, and then Tyreek Stevenson was so good last year as a rookie opposite Jalen Johnson. The New York Jets is one that gets a lot of praise. Obviously, Sauce Gardner is elite. So there are a couple around the league. I mentioned
the
two
Seahawks
of them,
are up there with Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen, and then whoever you say is their cornerback 3 between Michael Jackson and Trey Flowers.
Kobe Bryant is there too, I think.
Kobe
Bryant,
somebody like that. Yeah, so there are a few teams that I would say the Titans are on the same level as. Like I wouldn't put any of those teams above the Titans. And maybe L'Jarius Sneed isn't the best cornerback in the NFL. I think he came in at number 4 in that anonymous ESPN poll a couple weeks back. But that's, top 4 corner in the league is obviously none of the corners above him are teammates, right? So that puts the Titans in that conversation as being a truly elite cornerback tandem. All right, moving on to other position groups we have in the elite tier. You said you only have one. I'm putting the wide receivers in the elite tier. And
I knew you would.
I thought,
that's fair.
Yeah.
It's the one I debated.
And here's the reason. So I pulled up a list here. It's CBS Sports ranking the top 12 wide receiver trios for the 2024 season. And they rank the top 12, and they have the Titans at 12. The only pushback that I would accept for why the Titans don't deserve to be much higher than 12 is the age factor and the potential injury risk factor, which I don't think is that high. Like DeAndre Hopkins, who was coming off 2 injury-plagued seasons, played every game for the Titans last year. Put up over 1,000 yards. Calvin Ridley had a great season, even if it was somewhat inconsistent in Jacksonville. Put up over 1,000 yards. Tyler Boyd has been a consummate professional in this league. Like there is not a team with 3 more proven wide receivers than the Titans. So the only argument I will accept that they are not a top 3 or top 5 wide receiving unit is the age factor and that potential injury risk. So I'm just going to talk through some of the teams that are above them and why I would have the Titans ahead of them. The Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert. CBS has the Cowboys ahead of the Titans. Now, I get it. CeeDee Lamb is the best receiver of the 6 in the conversation, but I'm taking the 3 Titans receivers, at least the 2, Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins, over the next Cowboys receiver. And I think as a trio, they're much more proven. Jalen Tolbert is your 3rd wide receiver, and that's a better trio than what the Titans have?
Yeah, we don't know what he is yet. I think I might take Cooks ahead of Boyd personally.
But the ahead of Boyd, yes, maybe. That's a conversation. But the age factor with Cooks, Ridley, and Hopkins, it's sort of a moot point there. You're not taking Cooks because he's younger or more explosive at this point in his career. The next team above them, the Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, great receivers. The 3rd, Tutu Atwell. Are we really giving that much of are we weighing Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua that highly that they can lift the Tutu Atwell into this conversation of trios?
I get why someone would make that argument, though. Like
I get why, but
1,500 yards as a rookie, right?
And Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, significant injuries since then, and who knows if he'll ever be healthy again.
Exactly. What is Cooper Kupp today? Puka Nacua had a great rookie season, but he was also an unknown factor for teams that were scouting for most of the year until they finally picked up on it, and he sort of tailed off towards the end of the season in terms of his production, although he had a great playoff game. So I'm taking the Titans at least in the same convo as the Rams. I'm not saying they're definitively better than that, but they're on the same level. Next team above them, the Vikings. Now, we had this conversation recently, but Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Trent Sherfield is their wide receiver 3. again, there's no disputing Justin Jefferson is the best receiver of the six, but does he raise the Vikings receiving core as a whole to be
He's the best in the league? I think maybe.
Maybe, but I'm taking the Titans wide receiver 4, Treylon Burks, over Trent Sherfield. Are you kidding me? Trent Sherfield is in this conversation. He had 11 catches last year.
I get it. But look, we're not going to keep, going down the list.
I am going to keep going down the list.
I'll get into why I only put it at good. And I think the majority of the reason why the age factor for me is a question. I got to see Hopkins repeat that performance, at whatever he is now, 31, 32. Boyd, the production last year was one of the lowest of his career. Now, they had an injury there with Joe Burrow that could have impacted it, but I do question how much of his prime he has ahead of him, if any of it, to be honest with you. So I think the age factor for me, the questions about what I trust Hopkins more than I do Boyd, like what Boyd is going to be this year compared to what Hopkins is. Look, I don't get me wrong. I love this room a lot. I just decided to be a bit harsh. Again, remember what you said at the beginning of the show before you jumped down my throat? Good is still good, right? Like above league average, one of the best in the NFL. I would have it as a top 10 unit. I'd probably have it somewhere in the 8 to 10 range if I had to guess, because some of those unknowns. But I've got it at good. You've got it at elite. I don't blame you, though.
And the last thing I'll say on this point is that I think the style of offense can influence how we view a wide receiving core. And the Titans have never had a pass-happy, pass-first, 60+% pass rate offense. And they're finally going to with Brian Callahan, which I think will allow all of these receivers to shine a little more, to be more productive, because they're going to have more opportunity and more targets. And that's going to, increase their profile. So even though they're all like veterans who have been around and everyone knows how good they are, I think the perception of them in the Titans offense makes people think, oh, well, they're not going to be that productive.
And when you say that point, it's stupid that I'm going to say I forgot this, but when you really consider that, you're like, damn, D-Hop went over 1,000 yards last year in that offense with no pass protection, 2 different quarterbacks, a rookie QB learning on the fly.
3 different quarterbacks, actually. Malik Willis started the Ravens game.
3 different quarterbacks. Like I said, a horrible pass protection, a run-heavy offense, all that. So puts D-Hop's season really into perspective, makes it more impressive.
Yes. All right, let's go through the good tier here because we have more position groups in this tier. Who's your next position group that you're slotting in up here?
I put running back here. I feel good about having, and I would rank this as probably the 3rd best position group on the Titans, in all honesty. I like having, it's close, but I like having Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Just the ability to have 2 interchangeable guys. They can both run. They can both catch passes. They can both pass protect at a pretty damn decent level as well. Spears, for his size, is competitive. Pollard, I think, has always been pretty decent at it. So I think, again, the interchangeable skill sets, Pollard going over 1,000 yards last year, Spears being a two-way, dual threat production, averaging 5.5 yards per touch, team high in that category among all running backs, and 4.5 yards per carry was higher than what Derrick Henry averaged last year. I've got them here. And even the third one, whether that's a Hassan Haskins, a Julius Chestnut. I know that's replacement level RB3, but it's a decent RB3 that's going to give you something at least on special teams. I like this position group.
Yeah, I was considering putting them in the elite tier, but I can't do it because we need to see what Tony Pollard is. Another year off the injury, is he going to really make the bounce back that a lot of people are projecting and look more like he did down the stretch of last season versus the beginning of last season? Tajay Spears was a rookie. Can he repeat that with a higher workload and, possibly a larger role in the offense? So yes, I do think they are good. But when you talk about like tandems of running backs around the league, there's only a few that you're like definitively putting ahead of the Titans, but I think they are clearly a tier ahead of the Titans, so that's why they belong in the good category. First one that comes to mind is like Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane in Miami. Like those guys were electric last year. I don't know if you can think of any others off the top of your head like that aren't top heavy, but even the top heavy ones probably take that place above the Titans because they have somebody you can.
That's the thing, right? Like the Titans don't have an elite player at the position, but because I like the depth, I like the versatility they have, it still qualifies as good for me. Sounds like you're in agreement. I'm just going to move on to my next one. I've got defensive tackle here. Flat out, this is a Jeffrey Simmons ranking. Jeffrey Simmons is so damn good. One of the best D tackles in the NFL. No doubt a top 10 player at his position in the league. He did make that ESPN anonymous list once again, or the anonymous poll. I think third straight year he's been on that list. I don't love or even like anything else behind him. I mean, look, I'm not going to say I don't like T'Vondre Sweat. What I mean, I don't know what T'Vondre Sweat is. No one does. So that's a question mark for me. After that, what are we talking about? Sebastian Joseph Day, Keandre Coburn, Quinton Bohanna probably doesn't make the team. The point is, they've got a lot of question marks here outside of Jeffrey Simmons. But we've talked about players in positions on other teams that raise the floor kind of thing. Jeffrey Simmons does that for the defensive tackle room for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I agree with you. I almost put them at replacement level just because of the depth. Same. and just like not just the depth, but the other like you said, we don't know what T'Vondre Sweat is. We don't know if he's going to start. We don't know what condition he's going to be in. Although if you're listening to this 2 weeks into week and a half, 2 weeks into training camp, you probably have a better idea than we do as we record this. Yeah. But
even then, I wouldn't. No matter what happens in training camp so far, I wouldn't change this because we don't know what he's going to be week one. We don't know. Yes, it's great if you report it in shape and he's on the field, good condition, weight. All that is nice, but we need to actually see him play.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think Jeffrey Simmons does raise them to that level because he is truly an elite player. And if this was still the defensive tackle room of last year, if you can count Danico Autry as a defensive tackle, that might push them all the way up towards elite, maybe not quite there. But I definitely think because of Jeffrey Simmons, they become above the average level of NFL defensive line as a group. It's at least with the tackle position. All right, you got one more position group in your good tier?
I do, and I hope this is probably the best, the most positive projection I'm doing. I put quarterback here in the good tier. Again, we've talked about Will Levis a lot every episode, certainly a lot in recent episodes. But you and I both believe in Will Levis and who he is and what he's going to be for this team. On top of it, we haven't talked about Mason Rudolph. I think this is a huge upgrade for the Titans at backup quarterback. I say it all the time. There are not a lot of good backup quarterbacks in the NFL. In fact, there are a lot of teams that have a full-blown disaster situation at backup quarterback. It always blows me away. How many people you guys got in that damn country? 341 million. We can't find.
You know that off the top of your head?
I think I knew that off the top of my head. 341 million roughly. Are you looking it up? What is it?
Yeah, 2022 was 333. I don't know if I can find 2024, but
300 and something odd million, 330,
335. Oh, 341. There it is. The current population of the United States is 341.9. So we're really close to 342.
342 million citizens. Can't find 64 of them that can throw a ball at a high level. Shows you how hard it is to play quarterback, though, in the NFL.
That's I
think Mason Rudolph significantly raises the floor. No one wants him to play. I get it. I don't want him to play. You don't want him to play. But as we're judging the overall strength of this room, like he came in for Pittsburgh last year, won a lot of games, got them into the playoffs. You cannot realistically ask more of a backup quarterback than what Mason Rudolph gave the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. I think with how I feel about Will Levis and then getting the huge upgrade from Malik Willis to Mason Rudolph, because yes, it is a huge upgrade at backup quarterback, gives me enough confidence to put this in the good tier.
I can't do it. I can't do it. So just to try to define what these tiers are in my brain, and maybe we should have communicated better and you don't have the same, image of what these tiers are as I do. But to me, the good tier, like elite tier would be like top 3 in the league, right? The good tier would be like 4 to 12-ish.
That's fair. Will Levis obviously isn't a top 12 quarterback in the league.
So that's where I was going. Yeah, replacement level, probably the mid, like either side of 15 and 16. So like, 13 to 18 or 19, something like that. And then concerns is everything after that. So if that's the way we're viewing it, is Will Levis going to be a top 12 quarterback this year? Even if you think Mason Rudolph is a top 5 backup quarterback, which he I think that's probably right. I still think the quarterback talent in this league has been, it's increased dramatically over the last handful of years. And when you just talk about the AFC alone, and it's like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, all the AFC, Aaron Rodgers, all the AFC, Justin Herbert, like Deshaun Watson, like I can go on, and maybe some of those guys continue to struggle like Watson, and Herbert hasn't won really big, but then like CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, like there's so many good quarterbacks, and that's just the AFC. Then you talk about like Dak Prescott and Who else? Who's in the NFC that's good? I don't know.
Not a lot of great ones.
Jordan Love stepped up
Jared
big
Goff,
last year.
Kirk
Jared Goff just got
Cousins.
the huge deal. Kirk Cousins, like all these guys are probably, at least going into 2024, you have to view them as better than Will Levis. So where does Will Levis even rank? Like, I'm not saying he's a bottom third quarterback going into this season, but he's probably, I mean, anyone who ranks him top 12 going into this season is purely projecting based on bias, right? So I'm going to try to avoid.
He's not even top 16 to 18, probably.
Exactly. So that's why even if they do have that good backup quarterback, I still think this is an average, like league average level quarterback room until Will Levis proves it. And he very well may prove it. And if we did these tier rankings at the end of the season, we may have a totally different opinion. But I just can't make that leap yet. So I'm putting quarterback in as my first position group in the replacement level tier because I just think it's NFL average.
That's fine. I think you make a lot of good points. I'm going to give you my first replacement level. Maybe it's a bit harsh, but it's the interior offensive line. Once again, you talked about projections. There are some projections here, right? Of course, we all think and we're excited for Peter Skoronski to take a step forward at left guard, but we've got to see it. I think that's fair to say. Lloyd Cushenberry is the argument for bumping this position group up. In that ESPN poll, for example, he finished as the fourth best center. If you looked at centers only, they grouped that as all interior offensive linemen. But if you looked at just centers, he was number 4. Titans give him the big contract to come over here, projects as a massive upgrade over Aaron Brewer. But then at right guard, huge unknown with Sadiq Charles. We think he's going to be the starter. Whether it's him, Daniel Brunskill, Dylan Radins, this might be a replacement level group regardless, right, of who it is at right guard. In fact, it could even be concerning, if they don't perform a little bit above what people think they're capable of, in all honesty, based on their history. So I've got this in replacement level. Look, this is one next year I think hopefully will be bumped up to good, because no matter what happens at right guard, even if, Peter Skoronski takes the step forward and Lloyd Cushenberry meets expectations, then it's probably good no matter what. But for now, because Skoronski's still a projection and we're concerned about right guard, I've got it at replacement level.
Yeah, I really wanted to put this in the good tier because of my belief in Peter Skoronski and because I know Lloyd Cushenberry is good and because I hope that Sadiq Charles is good. And that just also in like the context of the state of offensive lines in the NFL, like there's not that many good ones. And I think everything I just said about what ranking these tiers apply to has to sort of shift with the positions you're talking about, because I think the replacement level tier for offensive line groups across the NFL is a much bigger tier because there's just not that much separation between the best replacement level group and the worst replacement. Like it's not just like 12 and up is good. It's probably like 6 and up is good. And everyone after that is replacement level until you get to the 20s or so. So that's why I'm keeping them in replacement level when I wanted them to be good just compared to the rest of the NFL. But I think you're right to say it's too much of a projection, but they definitely have room to move up as the season goes on. Anyone else in the replacement level? Oh, sorry. You want to keep talking O-line?
Yeah, no. I was going to go to that. I've only got one more because I just made a change on the fly without telling you. But my last one in the replacement level is offensive tackle. Once again, I mean, you could have put this at concern, right? Like, to be honest, but it's a first round left tackle in JC Latham. Again, we don't know what he's going to be. There are so many examples lately of first round tackles being like above average and hitting the ground running. Probably a lot more examples of ones that have struggled and maybe got better as time went on. It's a tough position to acclimate to going from college to the pros. Like, look at a guy like Andrew Thomas with the New York Giants, who really struggled early on. People were ready to write him off, and now he's really good, right? Yep. Like, it's just hard. It's not often you get a Rashawn Slater or a Tristan Wirfs that are just all pro level in year one. Even Rashawn Slater has since had injuries and been a little up and down. So we'll see on JC Latham. I think he's going to be above average to average at least as a rookie, but obviously it's a projection. And then the right tackle position, for me, is like a blinking red warning sign. Warning, warning, danger, danger, get out, get out, get out. It concerns the crap out of me, right tackle does. So for me, that puts it at replacement. If anything, it's the JC Latham, the hope that I have in him, bumped this up to replacement level.
Yeah, and I can get behind that. I think offensive tackle probably is replacement level, and it's the same convo. It's just because there's not that many good tackle tandems in the NFL right now. O-line is an epidemic across the league, and that's why we saw so many first-round tackles go this year and in the last few years. Like it's a trend because teams need to protect their quarterbacks. So I'm on board with that. I do have another position group in replacement level that you don't, so I'm going to move ahead to that one. I've got tight end in replacement level because it's sort of the same convo. It's like how many really elite tight ends are out there, and Chigakonkwo is good. Like he's not a top 12 tight end in the NFL, but he's got to be in that 13 to 18 range, right? You don't think so?
I don't know. Like I know this is a silly thing to say, but for some reason I'm thinking of fantasy football, not because that's how I measure good, but I'm thinking of how many tight ends I'd probably draft ahead of him.
Can you name 15 tight ends you'd rather have than Chigakonkwo on your NFL roster, not your fantasy roster?
I know he's not going to be even close. He's not top 12. There's no one's drafting Chigakonkwo in fantasy football.
I agree. No. I don't think this necessarily needs to be a fantasy conversation. I think that has to do with.
It's not. But I'm just when I think I'm using that to think of tight ends. It's easier because you typically have one tight end on your fantasy roster. But you know what I mean? So that's how.
But there's like 7 elite tight ends in the NFL, if you can even consider that many to be elite. Right? And the rest are replacement level, and Chig falls into that category. And if Josh Whyle takes his job, like we kind of have been alluding to possibly happening, and I would go as far as to say we expect it to happen at this point, then that's a guy who's better than Chigakonkwo, who's in that 18 to 20 range at tight end. That I think together that puts them in replacement level. Like I'm not concerned about this group weighing down the offense. So for that standpoint, I couldn't put them in the concerns tier.
That's a good point, because even though I put them in the concerns tier, I love that you said that, because neither am I. I'm not concerned that group's going to hold the offense back or that they're going to hamstring it in any way, shape, or form. I just think the lack of proven talent, the lack of high-end talent, that's what qualified it at a concern level for me. Got to see Chig kind of pick up where he left off. He finished the year strong in 2023. People forget that, but he started it so poorly. I'd like to see him, pick up where he left off once again and see Josh Whyle actually take that step that some of us just assume is a foregone conclusion, but
seems
still got to do it. I'm going to give you my next concern one, because that was your last replacement. That was my first concern. My next concern is the edge group. I initially put this at replacement level, but the more that I sit here, I mean, the depth, I beat it like a dead horse, right? Like I loved Harold Landry, but losing Dina Kawatri and not replacing him at all, you're bumping up Arden Key for a bigger role, 6 sacks last year. He's a replacement level as type of starter. Harold Landry's probably a good, he's certainly not an elite. So I've got one elite, I've got one replacement level, and then I've got a whole bunch of concerns, right? And that's
you have one elite? You have one elite?
No, sorry. I said that wrong. I've got one good in Harold Landry, one replacement level in Arden Key, and then a bunch of concerns behind them in Rashad Weaver, Jalen Harrell, Caleb Murphy, Thomas Rush, Khalid Duke. I think I literally just named all of them that are on the 90-man roster. For me, if you had one or two more replacement level, then I'd put it up at replacement level. But one good, one replacement level, and then 3, 4, 5 concerns. That's not good. I mean, imagine, I know you can say this about a lot of players and teams in the league, but God, imagine this position group loses Harold Landry. Like, this is a position group you'd love to be able to rotate guys, right? Like, you'd love to be able to get something out of them. We talked about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the last episode. I know that's a random example to bring up, but you talked about how they've got so many guys, and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka might be a trade candidate, so they got so many others. Well, who's the Joe Tryon-Shoyinka on this team? You know what I mean? Like, who's that 3rd or 4th, 5th guy? It doesn't exist. I look at the Miami Dolphins, and I know they did this because Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips are recovering from injuries, but they went out this offseason. They got who? Shaq Barrett. Then they used their 1st-round pick on Chop Robinson. They brought in Calais Campbell. I know he's an older DN, but he's still effective. Like, I look at some of the depth that the 49ers every year rotate guys in and out of that line with so much success. The New York Jets just, Hassan Reddick, back-to-back 1st-round picks with Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, right? They traded away, I think it was Bryce Huff, right, or whatever, because they had like a surplus of rushers. There are so many teams that are so much better off than the Titans are at edge. And for me right now, it's my early favorite to be their 1st-round pick in 2025. I'm looking ahead. I've got to put it at concern.
I do too, but I have a question for you because, again, we're taping this in advance, and who knows what's going to happen with this team. if the Titans sign a veteran at this position, will it bump them up to replacement level or even to good? And some random names that
No,
are still available: Emmanuel
I know
Ogba,
who they are.
Carl Lawson, Yannick Ngakoue, Tyus Bowser,
No,
Carlos Watkins, Shaq Lawson. None of these guys would bump them even to replacement
no.
level.
All of them are old and available for a reason. You've got Yannick Ngakoue had 4 sacks last year on a Chicago Bears team that couldn't sniff a quarterback until Montez Sweat got there. He was terrible. Shaq Lawson's 30-31, Carl Lawson 30-31, lots of injuries up and down. Ogba's like, we're talking, all those guys are available for a reason. They might be able to help a team out. They might be a better fourth rusher than the Titans have, maybe even a better third rusher than the Titans have. But no, none of them. I don't have enough confidence in any of those guys that are available to bump this up.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be a sore spot probably all year long. The only way it's not is if Denard Wilson's defense can manufacture pressure. Those corners are so good on the back end. They're giving these guys the time that they need, because they are going to need more time than your average to get home.
Yeah, and I think the big detriment for this group, like if Harold Landry was on that Myles Garrett tier, if he was on that TJ Watt, Nick Bosa, like if he was a game record difference making edge rusher instead of just like a great effort, clean up, hustle guy who can occasionally beat really bad tackles with like the times that Harold Landry wins with ease are against some of the worst tackles in the NFL, when he gets to go against a backup, or when it's a rookie or a guy who's not proven themselves. Like that's when Harold Landry looks like a star edge rusher. He doesn't look like that against the high level tackles. He gets a lot of his sacks are cleanup sacks or coverage sacks where he just keeps busting his butt and he doesn't give up on a play, and he's got a great motor, and those are all great traits, but they don't make him an elite edge rusher. And because they don't have a guy like that, you can't put them above replacement level for sure. But the fact that he's their only guy you can really rely on as an every down edge player pushes them even below replacement level. So I agree with you. Like if Arden Key has a better season, bounce back season, if one of these young UDFA type guys or Rashad Weaver or somebody steps forward, they could maybe get by this year as a replacement level group. But they're not climbing higher than that, no matter how good of a season these guys have. I don't see them reaching higher than even replacement level by the end of the year, right? So you want to give us your next position group in the concerning tier?
Yeah, we've only got 2 more to cover. Both are concerning. My first one is safety. Now, maybe by the time this episode's released, maybe this is outdated and they've signed Justin Simmons or Quandre Diggs. We're recording this, about a week in advance of it being released, but
almost
a
2.
week and a half.
Yeah,
give or take.
Like 2 weeks, basically.
Almost 2. Geez, you've been in Switzerland a long goddamn time.
Yeah, I'm coming home tonight. No, tomorrow night.
Coming home tomorrow night. There you go. So we'll have a new episode on training camp updates really soon if you're watching this now. But safety for me, again, we've kind of talked a lot about Jamal Adams. We did the emergency pod when they signed him. We now know the terms of that contract. Real low cost, sort of reflects what he's been lately, which is an injury prone, over the hill type performance is what he gave the Seahawks lately. And then the depth, Matthew Jackson, Shy Carter, Mike Brown. I might even put Elijah Molden in there. Elijah Molden's not better than a low level replacement, high level concern type of player, I would say. Amani Hooker, some injuries as well. For me, this group is a concern. Now, if they sign Justin Simmons, I might bump this up all the way to good, to be honest with you. Because now I'm thinking, wow, they've got Justin Simmons, Amani Hooker, and Jamal Adams. All of a sudden, I'm that good.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons is the one player that could take this 2 tiers up. Concern to good for me. Quandre Diggs would bring it up to replacement level for me, as would any other, half decent average safety that's out there still. But for me right now, it's a concern of just too much projecting with Jamal Adams, Elijah Molden maybe being a more traditional safety than he's been. For me, it's a concern.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't have much to add. The only thing I'll say is that not only are you concerned about the top end talent with Elijah Molden being a potential starter, or with that being Jamal Adams as a guy who has to play more coverage or whatever, you're also concerned because these are guys that have been injury prone their entire career.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them, exactly. And you don't have any depth behind them. Anybody proven even to be replacement level. Like the guys behind them are undrafted free agent guys. Like, so this is one of the most concerning position groups on the roster, barring a late free agent signing that may or may not have happened. What's going to be hilarious is if it does happen and we're sitting on here talking like we don't know whether or not it happened, but we also have an emergency but we also have an emergency pod posted because we realize we need to react to it. So whatever, we'll cross that bridge if and when we come to it. But yeah, I don't have much else to add. So why don't we wrap this up with your last position group, which if anyone is doing process of elimination, you should be able to know what it is.
And it's an obvious one. You should have predicted it'd be in this tier before you hit play on the episode. It's off-ball linebacker, inside backer, Kenneth Murray, Jack Gibbons, Otis Reese, a bunch of other guys. We don't know, right? Like no one, the Kenneth Murray acquisition was probably the least popular one this team made this offseason. Maybe even more so than T'Vondre Sweat out of all the people that were worried about that one. I think Kenneth Murray, you should be more worried about. Not great against the run, even worse against the pass. We question what he's good at doing, although he is athletic, he's explosive, he's been a good blitzer. We think blitzing is going to be a staple of the Denard Wilson defense. So hopefully there's a clear-cut role for him here. And they make it work, but I don't think you can hide as much as he's going to play. And I think it's a lot. I don't think you can do enough to hide his deficiencies every single down because you can't blitz every down. Right? Like he's going to play in coverage. He's going to defend the run and he's probably going to struggle doing those things. I mean, maybe we're wrong. I will say this is the best D tackle duo he's probably ever played behind. Hopefully. In Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat, if they are what they're supposed to be. And I mean that saying Sweat's, but even if Sweat's not good, he's at least going to clog up space. And that will help Kenneth Murray a lot because a lot of his struggles has to do with when guys climb to the second level, right? So I do think there was a vision in place here, thinking he's going to be able to flow freely to the football, and that's going to help him a lot. But it's got to be a concern, right? Like he's your best one and you don't like him. So it's like, Then you look at everything else with Jack Gibbons. I mean, obviously he's a concern, low-level replacement at best. So this position group is the worst on the team right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this position group has room to prove us wrong, though. That's the only positive thing I can say about it is that if this staff did have like a vision in mind for Kenneth Murray and they put him in a better position to succeed than he was in through multiple defensive coordinators. I just
said it.
With the Chargers. Yeah.
I think that's the vision.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Tackles are going to clog up space and eat up room and they're going to help him play freely.
Yeah. And if that comes to fruition and he, lives up to the contract the Titans gave him, and whether it's Jack Gibbons, Otis Reese, Chance Campbell, or if Cedric Gray picks things up quickly as a rookie, like, if Cedric Gray is able to win this job at a training camp, that doesn't just mean that Cedric Gray is okay enough to play. That means that they really trust him, and he is someone that could elevate the group because he's just a total unknown, whereas we've seen Jack Gibbons play. Otis Reese had some promising moments towards the end of last year, but it didn't sound like he was really in the mix throughout OTAs to win this job. It sounds like it's almost more Jack Gibbons' job to lose. So because of that, we are very concerned about it. But the unknown factor of just like the sheer number of bodies that are in the room, where if one of those guys proves to be better than we think right now, then this group has a chance to elevate as high as it possibly, the sky's the limit for what this group could be, just because there's so much uncertainty around how good some of these players can be.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's one of the biggest projections on the team probably because of did you know, I wrote this in an article for Broadway Sports. I'm thinking ahead. I published about 2 weeks ago now, if you're watching this when it goes live, obviously. But Jack Gibbons is the longest tenured inside linebacker on the team. Isn't that crazy? He joined in 2022. He tied with Chance Campbell, who was a 6th-round pick in that draft. Those are the longest tenured.
So Chance Campbell would be at least 1 day longer tenured.
1 day. No, yes.
A few hours.
No, not even.
A few hours.
You were trying to get smart on me, but a couple hours.
A few hours, yeah.
It's been a day 3 edition. They would have signed Gibbons a couple hours later, but. You're right, a couple hours, like a set of twins almost, right? Like we're talking mere minutes apart here when they acquired Chance Campbell and Jack Gibbons. But isn't that crazy? Like they're the 2 longest tenured players in this room. It was a stark reminder to me of how quickly things can change.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's it. We did it. We put every Titans position group into a tier. We made a tier list. We're doing things here, Justin. We got content, even though I'm out of town and not following training camp at all. Which, feels like I'm sort of foregoing some of my duties as a Titans media member, if that's what you can call me, as like a YouTuber, whatever, Twitter creator. But yeah, we're still delivering the content to the people. And when I get back tomorrow night, depending on when you listen to this, we'll get back on the mic sometime over the weekend, maybe Monday morning, probably actually, or who knows when with what my work schedule is going to look like when I come back. But who knows? We're going to get back on the mic very soon And you're going to catch me up on everything that's happened at training camp and give some analysis to the people of what matters and why it matters. So that's all to come. We got some great videos in the feed if you missed them. We did a bold predictions for the Titans season. We did busting Titans myths. What kind of myths are out there in the media and amongst the fan base that we can bust? And then, last Monday we had the Brian Callahan video that I'm, still very proud of, that video talking about what Brian Callahan's offense could look like. So there's tons of content out there on our channel. If you missed any of it, if you are not subscribed to the Music City Audible, you might have missed some of it. So subscribe to the Music City Audible podcast. Give this video a like. Turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. And like I said, comment anything below. Do you agree? Do you disagree with our tier list? Where are we wrong? That's what we really want to know. Tell us where we're wrong. Are we too low on some of these position groups? Because I feel like we're not too high on any of them. Like, if anything, we're too low. So tell us, let us know, and we'll get back to you. We'll have a nice dialogue back and forth with you guys. But that's it. Thanks again to Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville. Sinkers Beverages is the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. If you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In Crowd. In Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Plus, they're on Uber Eats, the most convenient way to get all the booze you need delivered right to your front door. All right, that'll do it. Any last words before I come back from vacation, Justin?
No, again, I hope you had a great time in Switzerland, and we'll be back in a few days to catch everyone up on training camp.
Sounds good. I cannot wait to see what has happened while I'm gone. But until then, you guys all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.